Okay, this is the final project for Libs 609, and this is a presentation about the future of the book, and I am asking for the case for holographic and projection mapped books in libraries. So with the rise of the digitization of books becoming more popular, many libraries are purchasing e-readers for their collection to allow patrons to check out items through third-party apps to read. But is it really so out there to believe that in the future, with the power of lights and projection mapping, that libraries will have the ability for patrons to flip through holographic books or immerse themselves in a book while standing in a room filled with projections? It is my hope that with this presentation, stakeholders see the value in continuing to fund libraries and push for cutting edge technology. Libraries that do not adapt to this new technology and space for patrons may become irrelevant if they don't keep up. Hopefully, this implementation will increase public interest in public libraries and allow for increased use of the library, as well as increased interest in reading. This presentation is to convince library stakeholders that the future of books is in the digitization space and that libraries should evolve and hold space for holographic or projection mapped immersive books. This is a call for library stakeholders to help fund libraries in order to help them integrate this kind of technology and stay relevant. Vote for people who support libraries, donate to your local library, and continue supporting your community's library. Stakeholders here include patrons, funders and partners, the library board, community members, and even staff members. I am asking public library stakeholders to consider funding and adding holographic and projection mapped books to the library. Just as libraries have evolved to add e-readers to their collections, adding holographic and projection mapped books to their collections would expand immersive reading programs, increase interest in literacy, and be a fun and exciting new way to attract patrons to the library. So, what is projection mapping? 3D projection mapping is a technique used to project captivating visuals onto real surfaces. This often involves using 3D or video editing software to precisely align and display images, animation, or videos onto physical objects. Popular examples of projection mapping currently include the interactive art exhibits that travel from city to city, such as the Monet or Van Gogh exhibits. So, what is projection mapping? While we've probably all heard of holograms, you might not have heard of projection mapping before, but you've probably seen it. Projection mapping, for the most part, has been implemented on large-scale projects such as against buildings or in rooms. So, like I just mentioned, the Van Gogh exhibit has been traveling. This has been a more museum-centric space, and it's usually an empty room with specifically sized animated projections. These other two examples were done by the new media department at the University of Maine. They created animations and photos and then learned how to size them onto different real life structures. So in this case, a standpipe. And then in the second photo, it is actually onto specific plants and pots within a greenhouse on campus. So when applying this technology to a book, it's most likely going to be on a much smaller scale, similar to this video. And I will just let that play for a minute. This will require a slightly smaller projector and a stationary object to project onto. In this case, they used a book-shaped touchscreen to project onto, and then they integrated it in a way that allows the user to sort of flip the page. Now, on the other hand, almost everybody has heard of holograms. However, most people, short of knowing what they look like in movies, don't really know what they look like in real life. So the most popular form of holograms is what's shown in the photo here. However, it's not what we typically think of. Usually, we think of a giant screen that uses mist and light to project a 3D human standing on the screen. Currently, this technology is few and far between, and ideally, we would use it to project images while reading to children or show graphs while looking at textbooks. So in real life, holograms are virtual three-dimensional images created by the interference of light beams that reflect physical objects. Holograms preserve the depth, the parallax, and other properties of the original item. There are a few different methods of holograms. AR, which is pictured here, is probably the most widely accepted version available today, similar to the new uh, Apple glasses that exist. But others include projecting light on defined particles or using lasers. So what would a holographic book look like? Holograms would be a similar idea, but using a phone or tablet instead of a projector. In this case, the book can be read like a regular ebook, but with the additional ability for the device to project a hologram as cited by Ackerman for MIT. Alternatively, a small device similar to a phone could be attached to a book and linked digitally to allow for real-time projections as a patron reads a physical book. Both of these are slightly more portable option, but could also be used at a station for a book, like the projection mapping. So for the integration of projection mapping, it might look like several stations similar to that of the previous video or of a story walk, which is pictured here. Each station would essentially be a touch screen installed somewhere in the library with a projector facing the touch screen. Because of the nature of including images, this would probably be more geared toward books with pictures. And ideally, patrons would have the ability to choose a book to look at from a digital collection, much like choosing a book from Libby. And the images associated with the book will be downloaded and projected onto that screen once a selection has been made. Now for holograms, slightly different integration. In this case, as long as devices in the future have the ability to project, as Ackerman explained in the MIT article, integration is as simple as having a digital book integrated with images in a database connected to the book by page number. Then when people download a book to read, the image database downloads with it and patrons are able to see the hologram images while they read a book. So is it possible? In short, yes. So here's how. Currently, these technologies are fairly limited to museums and academic institutions, primarily due to budget constraints. Of the two, currently projection mapping is way more feasible as the technology needed already exists. To use it for books, the projection sizing would just have to be pared down and made it to fit on a stationary book inside of a library, like the video. Holograms are a little more complicated because while the technology does exist in some ways, like the video above, other forms of holography are not yet available to the public. Holograms are more complex because for books, they would require instantaneous or real-time generation. Thankfully, this technology already exists thanks to MIT. The team there built a database of image pairs that match with a hologram and then essentially trained AI to learn from the image pairings and create its own, which allows for real-time holography. The other option, as mentioned before, would be that a database of images already exists paired with an ebook, and when you download that, it would project the database images. What's revolutionary about MIT's work is that it is available to use on small devices like smartphones or laptops, or even like other small versions of screens in the future, which would make it a portable option for libraries to have in their collection, similar to like an e-reader. Ackerman says that real-time 3D holography would enhance a slew of systems from VR to 3D printing. The team says that the new system would help immerse VR viewers in more realistic scenery while eliminating eye strain and other side effects of long-term VR use. The technology could easily be deployed on displays that modulate the phase of light waves. So why this technology? So while I don't think that physical books are going anywhere anytime soon, I do think the rise of ebooks and digitization will continue, and this is reflected in both Howard's The Book and Pedigree Wedwin's The Library. Howard says, given the tremendous numbers of books in the world, one can only speculate where book technology will go in the 21st century. To be sure, the future of electronic books is promising. Pedigree and Derwadewin even explain that some libraries have already moved to be completely digital, citing Bibliotech in San Antonio, which is the first completely digital public library. Libraries are evolving to be more focused on space for digitization, and it's been successful. While e-readers have existed for many years, projection mapping and holograms are relatively new to the technology and design space. They would be an interesting addition to libraries that doesn't already widely exist outside of museums and highly funded academic institutions. Libraries are moving toward being a space for people rather than just a place to check books out. With the evolution of technology in the last few years, patrons are looking more for a place with activities, Wi-Fi, and community. By choosing to raise money to work toward this goal, we are making sure the community has a space for dedicated learners wanting to use cutting-edge technology in combination with books. Bringing projection mapping and holograms to the library will allow there to be additional programming, a fun reason to visit the library, and a good reason to fund libraries, hopefully increasing the public interest in libraries. So for funding, this project, the goal would be to acquire the technology needed to use holographic or projection mapped books. And this could be a big challenge because not only is it expensive, but currently at this time, it's difficult to come by. In the future, this may change though. The MIT News article states that currently most affordable consumer grade displays modulate only brightness through the cost of phase modulating displays would fall if widely adopted. While the technology is not currently widely adopted, in a few decades it might be. According to Ackerman, the work at MIT was supported by Sony. This does leave open the option for libraries to pair with different sponsors, academic or commercial, to install and promote the technology. Grants or state funding may be available in some states as well, especially if it's in the interest of education or art. According to Wojcik, holograms have broad potential use in libraries that is even broader than initially assumed because they are not limited to education, promotion, and services and can also be used in documentation, research, and exhibitions. So, stakeholders, here's what you can do. Patrons, come to the library and city meetings. Let them know that you want more space for cutting-edge technology at your local library. Attend library programs. Tell others to get library cards and ask them to push for more space and technology as well. Join the Friends to the Library group. Funders and partners. Donate to the library, sponsor programs, and collaborate with the library to fundraise for this new technology. Library board. Discuss how implementing holographic books and projection mapping might draw more patrons and interest to the library and plan accordingly going forward. Community members. Join the library and get a card. Join the Friends of the Library. Attend library programs. Vote for local and state or federal politicians who want to support your libraries. And tell your city leaders that you want the library to have new technology and space for it. And library staff members. Express to library leadership that you want holograms and projection mapping at your library. Discuss how and where you might want it implemented and discuss programming or fundraisers for patrons surrounding it. So here are next steps. So first, you might need some needs assessment and planning. So this is mostly determining whether technology will be implemented for user experience, entertainment, accessibility, or modernization, or combo of all of the above, and evaluate the resources required to implement this technology. Funding may be considered at this point, and you can decide whether holograms and projection mapping will be piloted in a specific section of the library or across the entire system. For technology selection, you can explore available software and hardware required that are also suitable for displaying books specifically. You can ensure that these selections integrate well with your existing ILS and catalog, or if you use ebooks on Libby or Hoopla, you can make sure that there's an integration possible with those as well. For content acquisition and creation, you can secure the licensing for digital versions of the books to be displayed and digitize accordingly to ensure everything is compliant with copyright law. Consider customization or interactive elements if possible to enhance the experience for patrons. You could also be creating your own content for these books and pairing it, or hiring somebody or doing programs surrounding it at this time. And then for infrastructure setup, you'll install the hardware, including the projectors and displays in the designated areas of the library. You'll also make sure that the library network can actually handle the streaming and the downloading of digital content. And then training and documentation, you'll make sure that library staff are trained on how to use and troubleshoot all of this newfound technology. You'll create guides and tutorials for staff and patrons as necessary. After that, you will promote and launch. So you'll market the new features through library newsletters, social media, and the community. You could organize a program or event to introduce the technology. And then maintenance and support. Ensure regular maintenance of hardware and software to ensure performance and experience is good for patrons and staff. And then evaluation and expansion. You'll monitor usage by tracking statistics, gathering feedback to evaluate the success of holographic books and projection map books. Based on positive outcomes, you might consider expanding the technology appropriately to other branches or library systems. And then last, stakeholders should allow and help libraries to become a part of the evolving technology and help implement holographic and projection mapped books. Libraries can and should be part of groundbreaking ideas, and not only will it expand library capability, but it will attract more patrons, help libraries evolve to keep them relevant, and increase interest in literacy. And then here is my works cited. I can also provide a list of these if you would like. So thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed.